History is a clock that people use to tell their political and cultural time of day. It is also a compass that people use to find themselves on the map of human geography.
Yes, Dr. Clark.
History tells of people where they have been and what they have been,
yes,
where they are and what they are.
Yes.
Most important, history tells a people where they still must go and what they still must be.
Yes, sir.
The relationship of history to the people is the same as the relationship of a mother to her child.
Yes, sir.
Whatsoever ye do all to the glory of God. That's a great principle to live.
Or access to the cobalt for your aerospace industry, or access to the copper for your automobile industry.
All right, you dealing with the economy. You want the coltan. Man, Congolese people don't eat coltan. Congolese people can't eat gold. Talk to the Congolese people. We're going to let you get the resources, but for God's sake, stop killing the people. Stop letting Rwanda, Uganda, and Joseph Kabila kill with impunity.
The situation in the Congo is not just a Congolese issue. It's not just an African issue, but it's a global issue. It's a worldwide issue. Congo is a part of the second largest rainforest in the world. It's vital to the fight against climate change. If you're concerned about climate change, you should be concerned about Congo. Half of those who have died as a result of the conflict are children under the age of 5. So if you're a child advocate, if you're concerned about children, you ought to be concerned about what's happening in the Congo. If you're concerned about women, if you have a mother, a sister, you ought to be concerned about what's happening in the Congo. If you drive an automobile, or fly in airplanes, or own a cell phone, as a human being, at the very least, you ought to be concerned. You ought to say something. You ought to want to find out why this is happening. You ought to be moved to want to bring an end to it.
Nzambe, apambala biso, benga nzambe, doko bika, benga nzambe, apambala biso, benga nzambe, doko bika, benga nzambe.
8 out of 10 people in Congo are unemployed and live on 30 cents or less per day.
À Kinshasa, 9 filles des rues sur 10 vivent de la prostitution.
For Congolese children, the tragedy is endless. Massacred in their villages by machetes or recruited as child soldiers, hundreds of thousands of children are victims, and many have become murderers.
So as we look at what's taking place, the quickest way to end the conflict in Congo is global.
Welcome to the Gilchrist experience. As you see, the subject matter is about the Congo, the 21st century Holocaust. Now, between 96 and today, 8 to 10 million people have died, yet no one's talking about it. Where are the headlines? Today's guests, Milton Alamandi and Felicity Ndukutu.
Almost, Nduku.
I always stumble over that one. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you, every time I see this piece, I come to tears. I mean, it just hits me right in the heart. How are people rationalizing this happening? How can we, out of the 10 million people, 5 million of them are kids, women and children. Innocent victims of what? Greed? Now, today's guests, Felicity and Milton, are both, Milton is, his expertise is, I think, the rape of Africa. And there are several other countries where this is everybody's in tune to problems throughout Africa, but Congo, I believe, is your specialty because of the extreme Holocaust,
right?
The murder and the rape of women and children
for profit.
Give us your take on what's happening today, and why isn't America doing something about it?
Okay, well, what's happening today? I'll give you a brief synopsis. Congo had been ruled by a vicious dictator for many years, Mobutu Sese Seko, when it was then Zaire. In 1997, it was invaded by Uganda and Tanzania with the support of the United States. And quite frankly, when that invasion succeeded in overthrowing Mobutu, not many people shed tears. Mobutu had succeeded in destroying what was then Zaire.
He was a vicious dictator, backed by all of Europe?
Backed by the CIA, backed by the West, because they saw him during the Cold War as a bulwark against the alleged spread of Soviet communism on the continent. It was he used that as a card to sell himself and justify his tyranny. And he stole a lot of money from the country, billions of dollars, and yet he was still supported because he served Western interests. After he was overthrown, nobody shed any tears, but then the people who helped the insurgency get rid of him, Uganda and Rwanda, they didn't want to leave. They didn't want to go back home.
This is 97?
This is 97, 98, because they saw the immense wealth in the Congo. So what happened is they started serving Western commercial interests. The United Nations has done reports on Congo and even listed the names of the companies that were benefiting from this genocide against the Congolese. While the war, the killing was going on, these companies are extracting wealth from the Congo. And it continues today. And I submit the reason why we don't see it on CNN sufficiently, the New York Times, the BBC, the Washington Post, is because Western corporate entities are still benefiting from this genocide. So I call it a commercial genocide. And that's why the whole focus right now is on COIN 2012, that viral video that was supposedly viewed by 100 million people.
Explain that one.
The search for Joseph Kony, this leader of the terroristic small Ugandan guerrilla outfit that's not even in Uganda anymore. It's hiding somewhere in Central African Republic. The question viewers need to ask is this: why are we focusing on COIN 2012, who supposedly has no more than 300 fighters, and ignoring the ongoing calamity and genocide in Congo? That is the question.
What about the duly elected president, Tshisekedi, who was elected president in last November? True?
Yes.
And what's happened to him? He's home?
The election basically has been stolen, and Tshisekedi has been on house arrest ever since. And the population does not understand. When the population rise up and go out in the street to march against his arrest and against the stolen election, they're being sprayed with acid. They're being
peaceful
shouted.
demonstrations.
Yes, peaceful demonstrations. Yes.
Yeah, right.
And even the Catholic Church had plans to rally with them, but they came in the churches where they were gathering before they come out in the street, and they bombed them with lacrimogene bombs and really just terrorized them. So the situation is such that even peaceful demonstrators cannot voice their outrage over what's going on in the Congo.
Can I call this a religious war? I mean, since Kabila is a Muslim and the majority of...
No, that's not the case.
It's a mineral war.
It's a mineral,
it's a mineral war, and it's an occupation by foreign militias that are illegally mining in the Congo at the detriment of the population and at the detriment of the voice of the people. And they created a genocide of over 8 million people, and they are raping women and children. And nobody is talking about it. Hillary Clinton has been on the terrain, and what is she doing about it? Why aren't they applying, why aren't they mandating Public Law 109456?
Right.
Which is a comprehensive bill that would protect the Congo's territory and the Congo's population. Why aren't they mandating it into action?
Which was signed into effect and promoted by Obama in 2006.
Yes.
Well, what do you think is...
So basically she's saying that Kabila serves the interest of the West once again. Essentially he's serving the same role that Mobutu served for decades, almost 4 decades.
Exactly.
In what was then Zaire. So when we look, because often it's true that Africans have to take responsibility for their affairs and guide their destiny. And believe me, there are many Africans on the ground who are risking their lives and even getting killed in this struggle, even though
is there a movement?
We don't hear enough about it. But we can't discount the role that the foreign actors play in these calamities, because after all, most of these African governments that rely on their armies to suppress the citizenry, they get all their weapons from?
Of course, foreigners.
The West.
Right.
They get the training from?
The West.
The West. Who trains the army of Uganda, for example?
CIA?
It's the United States. Who trains the army of Rwanda? The United States. Who trains the army in the Congo? The United States. The weapons that the militias use, they don't manufacture any weapons in the bush or in the jungle. These weapons also come from the West. So we need to get a global reaction to push back at this attack on Africa, destroying the countries, destroying innocent people, destroying women, destroying children. But what is the story that all the major corporate newspapers and broadcast media outlets are focusing on? 2012.
Yeah.
It is the biggest scam that we've witnessed in recent history. It's a diversion. So while everybody's talking about these kids from San Diego, invisible children, and this preposterous video, nobody's discussing the fact that women continue to be raped in the Congo. Children killed, recruited into child soldiery. And the individuals who are presiding over this, they're almost like some of the colonial governors we used to have. Tell me, what beneficial role is Kabila serving in Congo? What beneficial role is Kagame serving in Rwanda? What beneficial role is General Museveni serving in Uganda? Just because they are African, it does not mean that we should overlook the genocide that they're helping to perpetuate against African people.
All right. Let's go to a roll-in. The next roll-in, and it's about the. This is Reverend Daughtry at National Action Network, and it's about the Sudan. So we're going to cover other areas of Africa that are also under fire, and you hear more about these parts than you do about the Congo. Be right back at you after this roll-in. All right. God bless.
This broadcast, black press, becomes important. So I'm challenging and inspiring you to be at the meeting on next Saturday, 12 noon, House of the Lord Church. You've got to get involved. You need further information, just give me a ring. Y'all know how to reach me. Give me a ring, and I'll give you further information. Thank you, Reverend Sharpton, and me and all y'all here. The crisis in Sudan. There's several areas. In 2005, after a 20-year war, a comprehensive peace agreement was signed between the North, the Arab-dominated, and the South, indigenous people, in which the people would be allowed the opportunity to vote for independence in 2011. Well, the people decided that they wanted to be independent from the North. In between, there's an area called Abaye, oil rich, which was also going to vote for independence. However, the North decided that they would move and start bombing to prevent Abaye from exercising that right. 60,000 people were driven from their homeland. The issue was such proportion that the UN, the US government all condemned the action. Bishop Tutu recently, along with the elders of Africa, and if you saw my article, I joined that call for the nations to cease and return to the negotiation table. During that 20-year war, 2,000 people were killed, mostly indigenous Africans. That's one area. Another area is, as you know, Darfur. Darfur is the western region of Sudan. The tensions erupted there in 1960 when the British conquered this independent nation. We know a little bit of history about Darfur. They appointed Arab rulers and merged it with Sudan, creating the tension. So about 2003, it was considered a humanitarian crisis, the worst in the world, by Secretary of State Colin Powell as well as the United Nations. Well, the situation has escalated. Now it is estimated 500,000 people have been killed, 4 million people are scattered in Sudan proper, in 12 refugee camps in Chad primarily. There are 300,000 people, 800,000 women, children, young girls have been raped. Now, I know personally, because I visit the area a number of times. I've been in the refugee camp. I've spoken to all the leaders in what is called the resistance movement. I've spoken to the leaders in the South, including President Salva Kiir. I know firsthand of the suffering. Some of you participated with us not long ago in raising the awareness and also the material support. I promised you that if you supported, I would personally deliver the support, which I did, which we filmed, which you know about. Third region is in what is called the Blue Mountain States, Kordofan, the Nuba Mountains, where the ancient Nubian people been there for thousands of years. Again, the North have bombed that area, blockaded the humanitarian efforts. This is why you remember Ben Jealous, George Clooney, Martin Luther King Jr. III, all did civil disobedience in Washington to highlight what is happening. I come today to bring the awareness to you. You know about Afghanistan, Iraq, but what is happening presently to indigenous Africans, keep in mind, what is happening presently to indigenous Africans is of such proportion that it boggles the mind. One of the graphic pictures that shall forever be riveted on our consciousnesses, you might have seen it, during that 20-year war, there was this baby who was starving to death, and a buzzard was about 5 feet away, waiting for the baby to drop dead. We're going to have an emergency meeting next Saturday, 12 noon, after the broadcast is over at our church, in which we're convening people of interest to see how we could raise the issue of what is happening in this area. It has not gained much attention because things in Africa don't really in the larger context. This is why
I'm sorry, that was a little of my editing. I had the front and the back and the back and the front. Anyway, welcome to the show, Professor Gimme, which you know is from a native of the Congo.
Thank you.
But what we were talking about, Professor, is, of course we were talking about the Congo earlier, but we're also talking about the rape of Africa in general and the most attention that's being paid to places like the Sudan, which Reverend was just speaking about.
Okay.
So give us your take on the Sudan, Milton. Tell us about where do they fit into the scheme of things right now. I know it's an oil-rich country. They've gained their independence, and suddenly the North is coming after them.
There's a theme that, my brother, Yalenge, will affirm that is consistent throughout. There's always resources involved.
Of course.
So there's no accident that in the Sudan there's a lot of oil in the southern part of the Sudan.
Right.
As we know, last year we had the world's newest country, which South Sudan separated. And so we now have Sudan, which is the northern part, and we have South Sudan with the capital in Juba. And they had this internal war for almost half a century, 50 years.
50 years, right.
And the outside world had taken no serious interest until it was discovered that there was a lot of oil in South Sudan.
You mean they didn't know the oil was there all this time?
Well, some people did know, obviously. Okay. But once they started commercially extracting it and saw how much it was, that's when the international community really pressed both sides to negotiate an end to the war. And eventually there was a referendum, and the South decided to become its separate country. But now, it seems like outside elements also want these two now separate countries to go back into full-scale war, because it may benefit them to strike a better deal with one side in the conflict. And sadly, they're using Uganda because when the border war started between Sudan and South Sudan, the UN Security Council was saying, if you guys don't stop fighting by a certain date, we're going to slap sanctions on both countries. But Uganda was saying, no, we're going to join South Sudan in this war and take sides, which is very perverse. Most outside countries would say, we're going to come in to mediate and stop this conflict. But this is General Museveni, who, as I said earlier, has been responsible for causing so much destruction in the Congo, where my brother and sister come from. And now he wants to import the same kind of violence into the Sudan, because he knows that so long as there's war in the region, nobody will pause to ask him the question, wait a minute, why have you been in power for 26 years in Uganda now and stolen the last 3 elections? So these are the things that often you don't see corporate media putting in context or explaining. So at the end of the day, people say, oh, look at these Africans killing each other again.
Yeah, that's
when in fact,
tribal warfare.
Exactly. That's what they want to refer to avoid answering these kind of questions that, thank God, we get to discuss on your show.
What do you think? I mean, that's the normal theme, that it's tribal warfare. That's what most Americans think. I mean, that's really why nobody's paying attention to it.
Well, that's how they dub it. That's how they call it.
Right.
So that people in America or outside of Africa will not ask the hard questions.
Right.
They will say this is tribal war. They will say this is ethnic war. Ethnic, that means that different ethnics are fighting amongst each other. The same thing with the Congo. The same thing with the Kony that we talked about before 2012, as if Ugandans are fighting amongst each other, or as the Congolese are fighting amongst each other, when it's actually the outside interest that are fueling these conflicts. When, for instance, they're keeping Museveni in power, a dictator who's stealing elections, and as long as Museveni is serving their interest, nobody's going to bother him. So they can use these smoke screens in Sudan or Kony 2012 or around there, or Central African Republic or the Congo, so that nobody asks the question about Museveni and what the crimes that he has committed. So this situation is what is also fueling the genocide in the Congo. Right?
All right, let's start with this.
And can I just interject quickly? And if you look at it for a domestic comparison, like here, they would refer to it as black on black crime.
Yeah, that's
without them having to explain things like, okay, who's bringing the weapons into our neighborhoods here? Okay, who's bringing drugs into our neighborhoods? If you go up to Harlem or Bed-Stuy, you don't find any runway or airport where these planes are landing. with the drugs, right?
Yeah.
So who's really bringing them in?
But still, even I stand to the point, I say to my brother now, the problem is how we treat one another.
I agree. I said that earlier. I said at the end of the day, Africans have to take responsibility.
That's it.
For the solution, because in the end of the day, nobody's going to do it for them anyway. So I agree with you.
I want to start there.
How we treat
We're responsible for what we do to one another.
Okay, so if
now where do we go from here? Knowing that we're not going to blame anybody but how we treat one another.
Okay.
Okay, now how do we solve it?
The way we solve it, first of all, is by saying, why do we treat one another so? The way we treat one another, yes, violence, killing one another,
we all know why.
No, we do not know why.
Most of us do.
No, most of us don't know.
Okay.
Most of us do not know even here.
Explain.
Okay? Because why do we treat one another? If I don't teach my children to love one another, if I teach them to hate one another, then my children begin to fight each other. And then somebody instead of asking me, why you hate each other so much?
Lack of self-esteem.
Okay? Now,
the color of the skin.
Now, last show that we did, you showed Malcolm X talking to the people. Now, he was putting it in terms of Muhammad, Elijah Muhammad, and the people who were asking the questions.
Who taught you how to
there you go. Exactly. So before we talk about why we got to talk about who taught us to hate one another.
And we do a good job at that. No, really, it's true. We do a good job at it. You know, if you don't love yourself, it's going to be difficult for you to love another black person.
Exactly.
It's going to be difficult for you to love your sister or your brother.
Yes.
And it's true, we exhibit many of the symptoms of a people that are not comfortable. And as Brother Malcolm broke it in simple language, he said, who taught you to hate? The shape of your lips, your nose,
your skin,
the hair, the texture of your hair. In other words, from the bottom of your feet to the top of your head.
That's right.
It sounds simplistic, but it's not, because even our kids, there have been experiments. If you put our kids, young kids, you give them dolls. They've done experiments, a black doll and a white doll. They point at the white doll and they say, this is the pretty doll.
Yes.
So it starts at that early age.
Yes.
So then it's not a mystery at all when we find that there's a lot of violence that we cause among ourselves towards our own. But I will never accept the term black on black, because in World War II, millions of Europeans were annihilated by other Europeans, and they never referred to it as white on white, because black on black has sort of a perverse context, and we shouldn't accept that.
Well, in my early beginnings, I just turned 71 April 27th.
Oh, God bless you.
So I can go back to, the early 40s.
Congratulations,
and
brother.
I came from a family of high yellows.
Yes.
And my mother was the darkest one in the family.
Yes.
So,
God bless her.
Yes.
And I used to get a big kick out of watching people lay in the sun and get a suntan.
Right.
So why are they fussing about that?
Yes.
I mean, it was a big joke to me.
Yes.
Because everybody looked at me and loved my complexion because I was right in between everybody.
Exactly.
And women especially get a lot of pressure about that.
Yeah.
I'm sure, sister, could you explain a little bit of that? A lot of my female friends talk about.
And this is what we should be talking about.
A lot of sisters who want to be pressured about it are pressured about it.
Right.
And it's sort of a matter of, upbringing, what is it that you were instilled in your family. And unfortunately, honestly speaking, in a general African perspective, we've been enslaved and colonized for over 500 years.
And brainwashed.
And brainwashed. And so that's when we started to, self-hate. And for the Congo, we've never been able to govern ourselves.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
all the leaders that we had were taken down. The one that the people voted, like Patrice Lumumba, you know, in Africa in general, Kwame Nkrumah, Thomas Sankara, you know, all these leaders that were really...
What about the present-day leader, Tshisekedi?
Tshisekedi was voted by the people.
No, because Tshisekedi has no power. He has been elected, but he cannot govern.
Well, why can't we get him some backing by the people?
Well, that's what we're talking about here.
Okay.
That's what we need to talk about here.
And when we're talking about black-on-black crime, my standpoint is that, you know, when you're politically poor, economically poor, you're going to be politically poor, you know.
Okay.
The IMF and the World Bank is impoverishing Africa by creating all these debts, you know, that will stem from before colonization, even before the Congo, for instance, since Leopold II, they started indebting us. And when we got we were independent, we still had those debts that will serve for the people that colonized us. It was in their interest. The things that the contract they signed or whatnot is not anything that was benefiting us.
Right.
And we stuck having to pay it. And the IMF and the World Bank is just continuing this impoverishment of the people. And so when you're poor, you blame your neighbor and you try to steal from them. And if the Western, the international, the multinational gives you guns to say, okay, you poor, try to get some money out of your neighbor, they will do it. Why? Because they're impoverished and they all they think is, how can I get a few dollars?
You know, you remember the rally we had at City Hall? You remember that one? I noticed a lot of people passing by. Well, Africans were passing by and saying, I remember he asked you, is this real? I mean, is this happening? So the rest of Africa doesn't even know what's happening in the Congo.
Exactly, exactly. They don't know. No, they don't know.
But it's not surprising. Who controls the
media.
international media conglomerate?
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
I mean, thankfully,
8 to 10 million people are dying.
let me give you an example. If we didn't have today the era of the internet, this scam, Coin 2012, would have gone right by us.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
But because of the internet, we were able to push back. We wrote editorials, we posted it on our website, and hundreds of other websites picked it up. We exposed this organization for who they were. In fact, we have another article that we just posted on Sunday. Jason Russell, the person that made that video for Invisible Children.
Okay.
Remember a couple of months ago, they said he had a meltdown when he came out in the street, naked, masturbating on the street. He didn't have a meltdown. He had a perverse tendency from way before that meltdown. We discovered on his personal website from a year ago, he was soliciting money on his website. And he said people can send in $1 each. And he had very disturbing images on his website. One image has him with a Hitler mustache. It's on his website.
Okay.
And the other most disturbing image has the naked buttocks of his infant son with a $5 bill wedged in between. And he posted this photograph on his website. When the minute we started working on the story, he took down the website, but we had already copied the images. And it's now an article on our website, and many other news organizations are picking it up. Can you imagine? These are the kind of guys that are promoting U.S. warfare on Africa, promoting AFRICOM to be sneaked on the African continent. Did they do a background check, or did they know that they were dealing with perverts all along? Without the internet, nobody would know about this story.
Exactly. We might bring to your attention, people, that Milton Alamandi is a reporter from Black Star News.
A publisher.
Right.
A publisher, I'm sorry.
Right. Black Star News. But at the end of the day, we still don't have the kind of circulation of the New York Times
or
the audience over CNN.
That's right.
So that's why a lot of these stories are known. And that goes back to what you just said. How come so many people don't know?
Don't know. Even Africans, that's right.
Even
don't know.
Africans.
Yeah, even Africans, they don't know. And so really what we're looking at here is why is the powerful world ignoring the plight or the crimes that are taking place in places like the Congo? Why are they ignoring it? So I think that's what we have to look at, because as you were asking, well, who are the leaders do we have? For instance, in the Congo now, we had Tshisekedi, Etienne Tshisekedi, who won the election.
Right.
But yet, and I'm glad, I don't know how you feel about it, we don't know what's going to happen in France, but François Hollande, who just defeated Sarkozy,
Right.
We are hoping, because he had already said that he's not going to the Congo to the Francophonie summit, because the guy, the so-called Joseph Kabila, the president of Congo, who's Rwandan, did not win the election.
Okay.
Interesting.
So we are.
France is the key.
France right now is the key. The new president, hopefully, he can, because François Hollande, who just won the election, he is on the left of Sarkozy.
So,
remember Sarkozy during the election of the Congo, even though he knew that Joseph Kabila, the Rwandan guy who was president in the Congo, his real name is Hippolyte Kanambe, he was killing Congolese. But Sarkozy gave his police weapons and equipment for them to even...
you were talking about the ex-French...
The president, yes, Sarkozy, who just lost the election. Yeah, who lost the election.
He was supplying police to Kabila.
Yeah, to Kabila, so they can beat up the people, oppress the people, even though...
So with this new election in France, let me understand this. Yeah. With this new election in France, the new president is more prone
to the left.
To Kazy.
To the left of Sarkozy. So we are hoping that he's going to support the voice of the people who chose Tshisekedi. Right. And so that he can demand that Hippolyte Kanambe or Joseph Kabila leaves power, so that Tshisekedi can take over and run the country and stop the war and stop the genocide and stop the raping of the women and the little children.
Well, that makes so much sense, since all of Europe is in the hole anyway. I mean, they need the wealth of the Congo.
Yeah, but they're getting it illegally right now.
They get it on unfair terms.
That's right.
And that's what we want to end. They would rather have a person like Kabila in Congo or a Museveni in Uganda, which is very dangerous because Uganda just discovered so much oil.
Right.
Unbelievable. They say it could be among the top 40 countries soon, eventually, in terms of oil exports. So you don't want leaders who are not accountable.
And Paul Kagame in Rwanda. That's
exactly.
Right. Yes.
You don't want these kind of leaders presiding over such immense wealth and then allowing the European entities to access this wealth at the most unfavorable terms. Wasn't there a disastrous contract that Kabila signed with China?
Yes, with China.
China gets like what percent?
China get anything China wants and give them just a few $1 million. But it's not only China. But then the wealth of Eastern Congo. You have Museveni, who's getting the gold and everything else from the northern part of Eastern Congo, Museveni, and those multinationals that are working with him. And then the Kivus, the southeastern Congo, Paul Kagame and Rwanda are getting those resources out. So in other words, the Congolese people don't control anything, but then what they did was they took a Trojan horse. Hippolyte Kanambe, so-called Joseph Kabila, made him president in the Congo, so that he doesn't, so he keeps the Congolese away from the part where they're stealing the resources and let them kill the people, and he's not doing anything. So he has become like, the one who's watching that the Congolese people don't go to the east to, kick out both the Museveni's criminals and Paul Kagame's criminals.
Museveni again is
the president of Uganda.
He's one of the three big godfathers. So look at them like three godfathers: Museveni,
Paul
Kagame, and Kabila. And they're like godfathers running like a mafia organization.
Exactly.
Governments that are not accountable, they can stay in power for as long as they want.
Yes.
Okay.
And the sad part is backed by
the outside powers, the United States and Europe.
We need to continue exposing this.
Right.
So how? What? I mean, since I seem to be the only one talking about this.
Right. Exactly.
No, more people are talking now. I'm getting calls. People that saw us on your last show.
Okay.
I'm getting calls.
You're getting calls about that?
I'm getting emails.
Okay.
So people really actually appreciate and welcome this kind of expose.
Right. So we'll do more of it. So tell me how we can get away from this concept of, black on black crime.
Or Africans on Africans.
Africans on Africans, or light against dark, the normal psychological problems that we all have. I mean, this is a psychological war which all of us fight to survive, basically. Excuse me.
Commercial break.
Where do we go from here? I mean, how can we improve our lot? I mean, we know the psychological problems we have about skin color and how we treat one another. With this kind of wealth exposed, and we're close to getting some control of it. How can that benefit us here in America?
Well, first we have to get control of it. Okay. But before we get control of it, we have to get rid of those dictators who are killing or killing Africans.
Okay.
And so that they can get rich while the people of their country are going, dead poor. So first we have to get rid of this. We have to solve this, not only as a people, but we have to expose them, as Brother Milton was saying. We have to expose them. If we expose them, then they're going to back down so that we can stop it. Can you believe that today, as we speak today, every minute we're speaking, a girl or a woman is raped in the Congo?
Or being taken advantage of even by the UN soldiers that are stationed there, supposedly to protect them.
We were talking about that
in return for sexual favors, just for milk.
Yes.
In one documentary, we saw that.
Yes.
When this is potentially one of the richest countries in the world. I think the assessed resources in the Congo is $30 trillion, and that itself could be an underestimate.
Right. So we're not talking just about Africans killing and taking advantage of Africans. Even UN troops, the United Nations troops that are in the Congo to so-called protect the people, they are raping, they are also stealing the resources, and they are playing the game.
And they are not protecting the people.
They are not protecting the people.
Because there's a red zone that they're supposed to be inside. The red zone, the rapes and the genocide are being committed inside that red zone. And the peacekeepers and the UN soldiers do not go past that red zone. So why are they there for?
Yeah.
What is their job there? It's been over 15 years. And we've had close to 2 million women raped, women and children, and over 8 million genocide.
And they're not protecting
what are they doing there?
They're not so we have to expose these, and then, because once we solve this, then we can look at the wealth, and we can say, let's develop the wealth. And the sad thing is this, that the Europeans, the Americans, could get these resources without millions of people dying. Because Congolese people have to trade.
Right.
We know, as I've said so many times, people don't eat gold.
Absolutely.
People do not eat diamonds. Why are you letting the Rwandan who's president in the Congo, Joseph Kabila, whose name is Hippolyte Kanambe, Museveni, and Paul Kagame, why are you letting them kill the millions of Congolese just for you to get the resources?
Just so you don't have to pay tax
to pay for, exactly.
to the central government.
Yes.
And leaving a fair portion into the country.
Right.
Why? This is preposterous.
Huh? And you're talking about democracy? The Congolese people elected somebody democratically.
Right.
And yet, the U.S. is ignoring it. France, what's his name, Sarkozy, who just got defeated, ignored it.
Thank
The
God.
Belgian government ignored it. Germany ignored it. Most of all these governments ignored it.
Ignored the election.
Ignored the elections.
Outcome.
They are ignored the outcome of people who elected this guy, Etienne Tshisekedi, who is still there, who actually got sworn in as a president, while Hippolyte Kanambe or Joseph Kabila also got himself sworn in as the president. So it's like you have two presidents. But we are going to Syria every day. Every day, CBS, ABC, all these are reporting on Syrians' government killing their own people. Yet, the Congo is being ignored, where the United Nations released a report that Joseph Kabila or Hippolyte Kanambe killed the people before, during, and after the elections of November 28. The European Union just released a report saying the same thing. So, but everybody is ignoring that because the rapes are still going on, the killing are still going on. Museveni, Paul Kagame, and Joseph Kabila or Hippolyte Kanambe, they are still letting these things happen. We're ignoring that, yet we on Syria.
Right, but even not only Syria, when we talk about Africa,
right.
What are we talking about?
Exactly.
Kony 2012.
Exactly, Kony 2012, as if that was...
Yes, Joseph Kony has committed atrocities and probably continues to do so in Central African Republic. But compared to the 7 to 10 million people killed in the Congo, really? Come on now.
That's right. Yeah.
This is a smokescreen.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we have this kind of discussion. And one of the questions you ask is, what can we do? We've been discussing, me and my good brother here, we are planning a major conference right here in New York.
Good.
We don't have the venue yet, but we already started the groundwork for it. And we're going to invite people from the continent too. Ugandans, Congolese, people from Rwanda who have been fighting against these godfathers. And we're also going to challenge the corporate media in this country to stop ignoring these stories. And hopefully we can get some of them to attend this conference.
Felicity has a campaign going on about cell phones.
Yes, it's called Blackout Movement for the Congo, and it's a movement to boycott the personal use of the cell phone. And we understand that some people work with cell phones, so we're not asking them to boycott their work cell phone, but one that you pay personally with your own pocket. Because this movement the movement was inspired by the civil rights. It just started, it's a young movement. It started in February of this year, and it was inspired by Rosa Parks' move of boycotting the buses. And we believe that our consumerism, is sometimes we're buying people's life out. And there is blood in the cell phone. And if millions of people decided to boycott the use of the cell phone for 2 months, 3 months, that's $1 billion industry, and there will be an economic hit. And those people will understand that we do not want to be connected with the businesses that profit from rape and genocide. So that's the idea behind it.
Now, do you think we could incorporate this idea with the...
Of course, without a doubt. She would definitely be speaking at the conference.
Because of the fact that 80% of the coltan on the planet comes from the Congo.
That's right,
We've talked about this several times on the show.
Exactly.
Heard about it.
And Australia has coltan too. Why isn't there a genocide in Australia?
Because they can get it cheaper in the Congo. That's why.
Because they get it cheaper. By walking over 8 million corpses.
Exactly. Actually,
they would never do that in Australia.
Actually, I wrote an article about that. There is a mine in Australia that where they were extracting coltan, it had to close.
Yeah, because it was cheaper.
They closed that mine. On one of the shows that we did, we talked about. They closed that mine because it could not compete with the cheap coltan coming out of the Congo, where they're only paying the price of the killing of the people, of the raping of the women and little girls. That's all it cost them.
Is it true that you could walk around and find it in the mud?
Well, you see young people, children digging it. They have children mining coltan. So it's not like, you need the heavy equipment. They mine it by the hand.
The mining course is nothing.
But they're killing the people.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
it's almost like during the time of King Leopold II, when he used to give bullets. For every bullet you spend, you got to bring a hand of somebody that you killed.
Ooh.
Because you're not supposed to waste the bullet. And then so you have to bring in rubber at the time. That's right. Okay, so it's almost the same thing today in the Congo. They rape, they mutilate, they kill. Millions are dying, and the world is keeping quiet. The United States, Britain, France, Belgium, Germany, all these powers, China.
But what's the common theme among these countries?
Right.
They're all industrialized.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
So if you boil it down to this, the industrialized countries are benefiting from the misery, suffering, destruction,
the genocide,
and genocide in Africa. So long as they get the resources they need to continue building their wealth. That's always been the same story. From the era of slavery, colonialism, to the neo-colonialism of today. And that's what it boils down to. And Kwame Nkrumah warned the continent of this when Ghana became independent. He said, if we all
It's the
don't come
60s.
together
Yeah.
and form one strong, united Pan-African government, at the end of the day, none of us are going to be able to protect our individual countries and resources. And his prophecy is now being lived out today.
Well, that was Dr. Clark's dream. How realistic is that?
No, I think it'll happen. I think young people have a
You
different
really
kind of continence. It may not happen in our lifetime. But if we guide our young people in the right direction, and they see that there's no need for one person to be in power for 20, 30, 40 years, then they can start the conversation of how can we come together and form larger entities in East Africa, in West Africa, in Southern Africa, and eventually end up with one Pan-African.
Well, I venture to say we got to start working right here in America.
That's right.
Making sure that Obama is reelected and do everything we can in our power to, since we are here in America. So I'm sure everybody's wondering why we're reaching out to the problems throughout far off Africa, and we have so many problems here. But it's a teaching tool to show you where we come from and the problems of the wealth of the world. The planet is all in Africa. That was the beginning of creation. The first human came from Africa, Mother Africa. And it's a spiritual thing too, because we are spiritual people, and we're not normally greedy and self-centered the way this, I don't know what's brought us to this. I mean, this spiritual thing is demonic.
It is. That's the right word for it, demonic. You can't beat that one.
And because, I mean, how can you be that greedy? How can you walk in and kill a child?
No, rape a 6 years old little girl. Gang rape her.
What kind of mind do you possess?
And then insert a bayonet.
Yes.
Or a knife.
Right.
Or a broken bottle into a
But
private
now,
region.
Who can we blame that on? But ourselves and how we treat one another.
Evil.
But
evil.
As we said, the mind can be destroyed completely if your leaders are bandits. Banditry and perversion will be promoted.
That's right.
You know that.
That's right.
You know, we've had great leaders like Dr. King, Malcolm X, Professor Henry Clark, you just mentioned, Van Sertima,
Dr. Ben and all of them.
Dr. Ben, Leonard Jeffries.
Yeah.
These are all great leaders, but at the same time, we've also had bandits who try to be leaders. And the leaders produce good people, and the bandits produce bandits.
And by the way, brother, you were saying, how can you do that? Now watch this. These leaders of so-called the free world, right? They do have the same pictures that we have of mutilated women and girls. In fact, you have women, American women, European women who are going over there trying to help the African women who are being gang raped, who have pictures, who come here and recount what they have seen. And yet, the American media and government is quiet about these atrocities. Watch this. What Hitler did, I mean, we have made it into movies, right? I have been to conferences on the Holocaust with my sister here. But why is the media ignoring the crimes, the atrocities of the Congo? Are they saying that
all the pictures I've seen blacks doing that to blacks.
Yes.
This is what I'm concerned with.
Thank you. But the brother told you that when it happened in World War II, listen,
I'm not
brother.
talking about World War II.
No, but hold on.
No, but that's an important component. It's not the complexion. We know right here in this country, we have black people that have committed some of the worst crimes, but we have to understand the rationale behind it. We have black brothers selling drugs to kids in our community, and that itself is bad.
Right.
But we can't just say because they're black. We have to look at the reasons behind it. We have to attack it. We have to tell them, listen, you can't be doing this to your brothers and sisters. But at the same time, we have to then go after that and say, who's bringing the weapons to your community? Who's bringing the drugs? You have to deal with both of that. We can't only deal with the brothers and leave the suppliers back. But who gave you the gun? Who gave you the gun? If I come here and I teach you pollution and you have a polluted mind, I give you a gun,
When
you
I
can
pull
shoot.
the trigger,
let me finish. You
when
can
I
shoot
pull the
yourself,
trigger-
or you can actually shoot your own kids.
When I
I
pull
can
the
let you do
trigger,
that.
I'm responsible.
No, you're not.
Okay, but you
I'm
just
responsible. No.
If you don't
That's
control
where-
your brain,
No.
if your
when
brain
I
is
pull the trigger, it's my responsibility not to
brother,
pull the
it's
trigger.
easy to say that because if that were the
Of course,
case,
'cause I've never pulled the
if that
trigger.
were the case, if those young brothers and sisters were responsible, they would be doing responsible things. But the fact that they're doing irresponsible things should let you know that there's something at play. Is that not reasonable?
It's a demonic force.
There you
What
go.
I'm
So
calling.
let's start from there.
So when you get the devil in you, you better pay attention.
Okay, so if you start right there, brother, where you say it's a demonic force.
Of course it
Watch
is.
this. If it's a demonic force, the demonic force has no color.
Right.
Of course not.
The demonic force is a spirit.
But don't catch it.
No.
Don't
Okay,
catch the
so-
disease. That's what I'm telling you. Don't catch the disease.
So that's
It's a
why you cannot.
disease, man,
that's-
that overcomes you. The spirit,
brother.
the devil just gets
But
in you,
brother,
and
you know
you're
what?
pulling triggers and getting
what?
greedy, and
You know what?
you're not respecting
You
the
know what?
God that lies within.
Sometimes you
I
don't
only
even-
got 2 minutes, so I'm building up to the God
But
part.
sometimes you don't even know you've caught it till it's too
See,
late.
Exactly.
That's the problem.
Exactly.
Like the light and dark thing we started out with, you know.
Yes.
I didn't realize I was light skinned until later on. People start telling me.
Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
But why
I
is
never
it,
caught
if you,
that
look,
disease.
if you look at it this way, why is it that the Congo has tons of minerals of all kinds? It's a rich country from the beginning of the time.
Yeah.
But why is it that crimes perpetrated against women and children in the nature of women being stabbed in the wombs, pregnant women being cut off in two by machetes, children 6-year-old being raped. Why is it that we can pinpoint that these crimes have started since 1997,
Exactly.
1988?
Very good point. Very good
And the
point.
Congo has had those riches forever.
Before that.
Very good point.
Why is it that these type of satanic, ritualistic
Right.
kind
That's
of
right.
crimes
That's
are
what it
being
is.
perpetrated?
Right.
And why is it that those people that are doing it are backed up by the West?
Exactly.
That's right.
It started.
This is demonic, and I even dare say it's
Well,
Masonic.
you
I
know
agree
what
with
it
the
is?
sister.
The
It
devil
started
or back
after
devil.
it was invaded by
Uganda
Rwanda
and
and
Rwanda.
Uganda.
Yes.
That's the devil at work.
Backed up by the West.
in
The
all
devil-
the years.
the devil's in the West.
we
The
are
weapons came from
The
America.
devil's-
Right.
The devil is busy.
We are a
No,
people
now
of
let's
the-
call. So we're calling America the devil now, because the weapons came from here.
Malcolm called.
Well,
You can't call all
let's show-
people devils.
Exactly, you cannot.
let's hope, let's
I
hope somebody
call
doesn't.
people in the Congress devils.
Let's hope somebody
Devils in
doesn't
Congress,
pull the
too.
plug on your show. We need your show to.
Oh, they've been after me for years. And with that note, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having
You know,
us.
one of these days we're going to start call-ins again. I'm really curious to see what people have to say.
Yeah.
As usual, it's been stimulating. And
Thank you.
okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Oh, that was good. That was good, guys. We got to
Thank you,
do this
sister.
more often. We got to do this more.
Yes, brother.
All
No,
right.
I've been
A
getting
month
calls,
from
so I
now.
really
Really?
appreciate this so much.
Really?
Been getting calls and emails, man.
Okay, good.
You know.
Yeah. You think, and especially because you put it on the internet. That's what is better.
Yeah, now they stop letting me do it.